Boom! Welcome to Tokyo Tonight too. I'm Hiko Simon. Good to see you all. This is Astro Boy. Got a new shirt the other day. Big Astro Boy fan actually from when I was a kid. It was on TV in Singapore. And I hope that you are all well. Good to see you all. Great to have you here. I'm just as usual scrambling in, but yeah. Well, that was rhyming gaijin there, by the way. I don't know if that's what you're talking about just now, but good to see you, good to see you. Yes, Tokyo Tonight too. Got some topics. We'll see how long I talk for them. If I don't talk for them all the way through, I might do a tune or something at the end of the show tonight. I hope that you're all well. My channel update is that I've just been swamped this last week, so I'm getting back into doing that stuff now. Got a couple of bugs which thanks to all of you have found. We've got to get out, and then we're going to get into launch mode. Really appreciate the chat last week where you guys suggested Kickstarter and Patreon. The Kickstarter thing's really got me thinking. So many people want an app and stuff like that. There's something I could do with Kickstarter. I couldn't fund that at the moment on my own. So that's actually a really interesting idea. I still need to make it subscription based, and I need to. So maybe if I do it with a Kickstarter, I'll give people, a free couple of years or a discount or something like that. But on the Pro tier stuff, as well as getting the funding for developing, like apps and stuff like that. But I really appreciate your thoughts on that last week. So I'm going to get back into that. It's Golden Week this week. I should have actually checked exactly what all the vacations are, but there's like Monday, Thursday and Friday are off in Japan, so it's only a 2-day week this week, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going to work the 2 days. Most people take those 2 days off and take the whole week off, so there'll be lots of Japanese traveling around wherever you go. But other than that, there's not an awful lot going on. It's great to see all of you guys, and let's see who is there in the chat, shall we? Good to see lots of familiar usernames there. Let's get and have a look. So initially Razel Gould and myself were chatting away, then Cristo Della Erikeko, who's been having some account problem, is there as Chris, so good to see you, Chris. We've got Kantensai, who else we got in here? We got James Kelly, good to see you, James Kelly, hi indeed. We got Lysander 45, yes, the pre-show disco indeed, hope you enjoyed that one. The J-Vlog 07, I don't know what 07 means, but good to see you. Who else? Believe in yourself. Good to see you. Yes, good and glad to see that you're keeping up with everybody here. Odie Jr. No, you're not. Well, you're not late. I was late, so you're early, I guess. So congratulations on that, Mr. Cordy Chap. Wow, you made it. Everyone's rushing to finish their assignment, and it's caused all sorts of problems for the server. Wow, you were so close to finishing your work. Well, I'm sorry. I hope you get that work done. But maybe the relaxing, calm tones of my voice will help with that. Probably not. But who knows? Stranger things could happen. What else we got here? Brain is on the fritz, says Odie Jr., because you've been working, last 10 or so days straight, 12 hours plus. That's not good. I've done that before, and I know what you mean about brain being on the fritz. If it's like manual, sort of repetitive stuff, you can push through it and do it, but it's bad for you. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to turn this one on and turn up the brightness there. That's not good, Odie Jr. Take care and get lots of sleep. And seriously, when I used to do that when I was younger, I would work 16, 18-hour days, and I'd get back home and I'd feel like I have to claim some personal time back. So I would watch videos and stuff like that and only sleep 2 hours or something and make it worse. And what I learned from that is, one, sleep. Like when you're in that situation, it's like a war situation. Sleep every minute, every second that you can. Exercise whenever you can. Getting exercise is just good for rebalancing the whole body and all that stuff, but you'll burn out if you keep doing that, so please take it easy. Okay, this is my first ever super chat mention from Catwell, which actually, it's $1, so thank you for the $1. I might turn that off. Honestly, you don't have to use the super chat with me. I mean, if you want to pin a comment or whatever, I do very much appreciate it. But in Catwell, I'm yours. You've got the pin you've got the pinned comment there. I've never seen that before actually, so that is interesting. Anyway, I'm going to keep going down. Let's see who else is here. My screen is timed out there. Let's get that back. Boom. So we got Odie Jr. Yeah, please take care of yourselves, especially Odie Jr. They're working quite a lot. We got James Kelly saying hello. We got Dave Hunter, indeed. Glad you like the shirt. Robert Ryan, good to see you. Believe in yourself. Well, thanks for the dollar. You sold me that dollar for $1. Well, there we go. I mean, actually, you never know. I mean, with currency exchange markets, I do appreciate it. All 100 pennies. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I must admit that's the first time I've ever had someone use that, and I turned it on mainly just because I was interested to see what it did. But yeah, you don't have to do that. Certainly. I mean, thank you very much. Anyway, good to see you, Catwell, and everybody else who made it in here. Let's get into the topics for tonight and see where we're going with this. First of all, this is very important. This is we're in chocolate mint season. You can only get mint flavored chocolates and sour drinks. Actually, it covers this, which I had today. So there we go. My show expenses. This is awesome. There's like a whole bunch, and some of them taste like toothpaste. You know, you get chocolate mint ice cream, you get a couple of chocolate things, some good, some suck. This is actually made by Fujiya, which is like a Peko-chan. You see the big, they do like ice cream mainly, but so they're not one of the major sweet manufacturers. But for some reason, only for like 1 year every year, they make this, and they only release it for that 1 month. They could release it all year round. I don't know why. You know, I mean, you have mint slices and you know, all these sorts of things all year round in Britain and Commonwealth countries. But in Japan, chocolate mint is strictly summer only. And sour drinks. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, there was this Mexican lime from Tropicana. It was actually like a lime, fizzy lime, and it was so good. It was like a really good Manaus soda or a lemon squash. And it was like, you know, like 20%, you know, Mexican limes. And again, those drinks, they only come out in the summer. So from my perspective, like for sweets and soft drinks, it's the best time of year, but I wish it would go through the whole year. Mint sauce with my lamb, indeed. Mr. Gordon, more of a gravy and mustard man myself, but we always had a bit of mint sauce. The mint sauce we'd actually mainly put on the peas and that sort of thing, although certainly okay with the lamb, and thank you for reminding me of that. I don't get to eat lamb very much anymore. My son, he really doesn't like meat, which is kind of, I'm still having trouble coping with that, but as a New Zealander, yes, mint sauce and lamb is pretty good. It's pretty good. So if you're in Japan, check this thing out. It's a Fujiya, what is it? Country Ma'am, Cho Chocominto, super chocolate, and it's pretty good. It's pretty cheap. It's a little snack there. What else we got here? We got so this is Chichibugahama Beach. And apparently it's this beach where at a certain tide, you know, it traps a lot of water, which makes it perfectly still, which means that you get a lot of these sort of awesome photos. It's in a relatively obscure part of Japan, but they did a bit of a feature, and I quite like this. Kagawa Prefecture, which is actually famous for, I think, udon, right? It's actually in West Japan, super nice looking by the looks of it there. But you can get photos like this there. I must admit, it is pretty cool. These are quite awesome photos, by the way, as well. Yeah, in Japan, by the way, it has, I mean, it's an island country. It's surrounded by beaches, and it actually has in some places, particularly Shizuoka, it's got beaches as good as Australia. The beaches around Tokyo, in Shonan and Chiba and Ibaraki, are basically dirt. They're not very good. But you do get some beautiful beaches, and you know, and actually remote, pure, sort of natural ones. The best beaches, other than in Shimoda in Shizuoka Prefecture that I've been to, actually the best surfing, I think I've mentioned this before, was Fukushima, right beside where the nuclear reactor is. So that was a bit of a shame that happened, of course. Yeah, some really beautiful, like on a scale with New Zealand or Australia type beaches. By the way, let me just realign the chat up here. I should do it. Boom. There we go. Yeah, worth checking it out from Takuma Station. You can find a place where you can take awesome pictures like that. I thought that was pretty cool. So this is the sumo controversy. I mentioned the whole sumo sexism controversy last week. It's been challenged more and more. In fact, yesterday, the Tokyo governor, Yuriko Koike, actually did stand in a sumo, on top of a sumo ring in Asakusa for a festival. There's a lot of sensitivity, and apparently, I wasn't sure whether it was a religious thing or it's just a pure tradition thing. Apparently, at least in the media, they're saying it's not religious reasons, it's pure tradition that they want to protect, that they are doing this. And apparently the Japan Sumo Association is now doing a survey. I don't know who they're going to cover in the survey, but they're actually reconsidering the rule about prohibiting women from standing on the sumo mound, on the sumo ring. So it will be interesting to see what happens from that. I mean, the fact that they're even considering it, it's going to be pretty hard to go back once they open that. But yes, hopefully there's a chance there for a positive change. Shamrock Shakes are a limited time at McDonald's too. Are they mint as well? So McDonald's does. You'll never get those in Japan, but if they are mint, I guess that's the thing as well. When you're in America, you do get if you get like a green milkshake or a green ice cream or whatever, it's always mint, right? You know that. But in Japan, it's probably like 80% of the time it's matcha, it's green tea, which also tastes good. And so if you did like shamrock milkshakes or whatever, in Japan, you'd probably be more likely to get it as matcha, as green milkshakes, as tea milkshakes, which if you think about it also makes sense for Ireland, perhaps more than a bit of creme de menthe. But yeah, well, there you go. In Canada, the only seasonal drink you can think of is green mint shakes at McDonald's. Oh, so there we go. Robert Ryan confirming they're the mint milkshakes at McDonald's on St. Patrick's Day at McDonald's in Canada. So there you go. That's interesting. Barringer, good to see you there. Yo-san, so Shikoku for those playing at home. Oh, okay, so that's right, Kagawa, that's right, Shikoku. And I've seen some good movies and stuff. In fact, Kagawa is famous. They make the cube-shaped melons there as well. They're like $300 and you can't really eat them, or if you do, they taste terrible and you've destroyed a $300 cubic natural melon. But amazing what they can do down there. Hey, Sergeant Bilko, good to see you. ABBA is back. I put that in the comments. I don't know if you even care about this, but I did see the BBC covering that on the same day as the North Korean summit that ABBA got together again. Hey, why not? Why not? This is interesting. You hear a lot of things. Again, people have to do these memes about Japan, like Japan has no Muslims and they allow no immigration, and they have no crime and so on, that right wingers like to use. People with agendas love to cite Japan because Japan's a big country. It's a relatively popular, cool, successful country, and relatively not understood country that you can just make stuff up and sound credible talking about. So apparently there's been a thing lately where Americans have been sharing a sort of a meme thing about 6 facts about healthcare in Japan and why America should have healthcare like Japan. And I don't know enough about American healthcare. I don't even know that much, honestly, about Japanese healthcare, even though I've used it for 20 years. But certainly what I do know is that when I go over to America, I really, really don't want to have any medical issues ever, and I'm very comfortable having them here in Japan. So there's an interesting thing, there's a little fact check here from Snopes looking at this, and it actually confirms some interesting positive facts. So yeah, this thing that's been going around, the rating is it's a mixture of true stuff and not true stuff. So interesting. Let's open this up. So here's the meme that's been going around that they test 6 points here. 100% of Japanese have health insurance. Costs are half of what Americans spend. Japanese can choose their own doctors and see them twice as often as Americans. Japanese have the world's longest life expectancy and the second lowest infant mortality. 95% of healthcare is not for profit, and government sets all fees for medical services and drugs. It's basically a quasi-public system here. Yeah, you can the doctors everywhere. You can see them whenever you like, and they're super cheap. I mean, that's all true. But when you go into the details here, Sergeant Bilko, glad that you like it. I love this shirt. Well, I just bought this shirt, but I love Astro Boy, so boom. Tetsuan Atom in Japan, by the way, interestingly enough. So 100% of Japanese have health insurance. Well, yes, you get national health insurance. There's universal health care, so everybody, you're never going to get turned away for not having insurance. Sometimes if you don't have your healthcare card with you when you get in an accident, you'll have to pay later or whatever, show the details of it later, but everybody is covered. Half is spent per capita. By some measures, yes, including per capita spend is basically they spend half on healthcare in Japan, 4,500 per person as opposed to 9,800 per person in America, so that's true. Japanese can choose their own doctors. Well, again, you can choose your own general practitioner who will have to refer you to specialists so that the big hospitals don't get overwhelmed. But yes, you can basically go see your own doctors, and the companies that you work for require health checkups that are really good at checking early stages of diseases before you know that you have them, which also helps you treat and control illnesses, and it's partly how Japanese get to live so long, which is also true. Hong Kong, people live longer than Japan, but Hong Kong is not officially a country because it's part of China, so Japan is the longest living country. In terms of, apparently, this surprises me actually, Japan is right up there with Finland and behind Luxembourg and Iceland for lowest infant mortality, which is funny because they don't do a lot of interventions with births here. Japan is a very serious international birth country, but apparently that's true. They kind of, the fact checkers here don't know what they're really talking about, saying that 95% of Japanese healthcare is not for profit. Well, it's not run like a business, right? A lot of these are public institutions that run hospitals and they just have budgets to recover or whatever. Yeah, you get private hospitals and public hospitals. It's the same as everywhere, so that's a little bit confused. And the government sets all fees for medical services and drugs, which is apparently also true. That there are uniform fees for what people should pay for medicine. That's why, again, when you need to have drugs, I mean, I've had things where I've had, you never pay more than up to $20 for pretty much anything here, at least in terms of medicines. I think it can cost more if you have operations, but even then, the idea of needing medical care and being financially ruined doesn't really happen here. So it's a good system. And indeed, Dave 100, it's rare for a meme to be mostly right. I think memes are just inherently a little bit too light on details for it, but yeah, apparently it checks out, which was interesting. I did a little blog on my Chan TV blog this week. You can check this. I love the look at that. That's not quite displaying as it should. It should be like that and not like that, but there you go. There's a thing, Amazon Poly there, which actually reads quite well the content of the blog. And so when I wrote this, I played it back, and it's like proofreading, and you'll actually hear when things don't sound right, and you go back and you'll type it and fix it. But yeah, pretty much just going through the ideas I'm going about. One, about getting the bugs down, and two, the ideas about, well, maybe I'll do Kickstarter, and Patreon's an interesting idea as well for the subscription. I know a lot of YouTubers are comfortable using Patreon. There again, as a user, well, two things. One, I want it to be specifically linked to the functionality of the site. So there's no way to really, well, there might be a way to do the interface, but the other thing is that Patreon takes a pretty big cut, more than 10% of the contributions, which again is okay. I talked about this with Rob Miller. You might remember we had him on as a sort of startup consultant guy on 2.5 Voyages a while ago. And he actually suggested to me another thing that was interesting. I don't want to go all over the place doing this, but at the same time, the aim is to get my chan up, running itself hopefully pretty well, and then, if it's all going smoothly, to do other projects, right, like this. So from that perspective, he said, why don't you do a Patreon for yourself? And do the My Chan thing separately, so that you can, do other creative projects based on this. That's another interesting idea. I don't want to have a Kickstarter and a Patreon and charging subscriptions for the site. I want to think of what's reasonable, but there again, it is true that I do things more broadly than that. So the people who were suggesting last week that why don't I just do Patreon like everyone else, well, maybe that would work actually. Maybe I don't do subscription on the site. I don't know if the Patreon, if I were to do a Kickstarter and it went really well, that's another solution. Again, I'm really always curious what you guys have, because you guys are the people that I might check, right? For me, I'm the same as you guys, that I love to watch YouTube. I like to keep up with my subscriptions, and I know that I'm making this for myself and I'm making it for you guys in terms of what it is, and I'm pretty confident that I've got a really good thing that I'm making, even though it's still got a couple of bugs. But in terms of how to make this sustain itself, that really requires your engagement, and you're like my test for that, and all I'm trying to figure out to do is how to make this thing kind of fly on its own. That's all that I really want to do with this. I've got a great day job, and I'm not looking to stop that. But at the same time, I can't lose money on this. I can't end up broke because of it, and it'd be a shame for everybody if I built this thing up and I couldn't keep it going. But there again, if it goes really well, which is also something I would like to have, I would like to do other projects like this. So yeah, don't worry, Mr. Cordy Chap. We're still playing around with getting it right at the moment. But I'm still convinced this is a really good way, and we can still improve it a lot. But I think this is if you're into subscriptions and you watch YouTube and you have time to watch YouTube, this is the best way to do it. So anyway, you can keep up with stuff on the blog and on my Chan dedicated Facebook and Twitter as well if you want to do that. And I should actually make a video blog every now and then, but for now I do the written blog, and it's pretty cool. Every single Aussie Patriot facts meme is completely bloody wrong. I'm not sure I've seen Australian patriotic facts. I've met some Australian patriotic meme espouses. remember I'm half Australian, of course, and I go back to Australia every Christmas. But yes, I remember being in army circles as a kid with my dad being in the army, and we were in Australian camps. You basically meet people who are like walking around patriotic memes who are mostly wrong about everything, so I can relate to that, and including the being annoyed part. And it may turn me into a smart ass about it as well. This is the problem as well, but yes. When I'm bored of YouTube, I sit by the window holding a sign saying, do something crazy. I quite like that. Well, that's basically what YouTube is, right? Yeah, so we got, I just mentioned before, Yuri Kokoike actually went and stood on the sacred circle and said, screw you guys, today. So good on her for that. We'll see if the Sumo Association decides to ease up. North Korea slams Japan. So now what's happening is that they're getting America ready to pay the money. They've got South Korea ready to pay the money. Everyone's being like nice to North Korea again. Really deja vu, 1995, 23 years ago when Bill Clinton and Kim Dae-jun did the Sunshine Policy thing, and Japan was the odd one out there as well. Japan is not there simply because they want to, by the way, I see some new commenters there. Let me say hello. Nissan R33 Z Tune, good to see you. Kang, watching from Utsunomiya, go hard or go, yes, go hard or go home, good to see you. Remember the Emu War, never forget. No, I don't know the Emu War. Concentrate. Yes, I was talking about North Korea. Yes, quickly, North Korea. So what's happened with this is that Japan was basically always the holdout. They were always like, no, we're not going to pay them money. They've abducted like 100 Japanese people and they have to give them back first. And when Japan was the only country that didn't go along with the Sunshine Policy, North Korea actually, like 2002, said, okay, what if we give you back a couple of abductees for a short time and say that we're really sorry? Then do we get the money? And Japan said, oh sure, we'll give you the money. And they gave them the abductees, and Japan said, haha, now give us the rest of them, and you're not getting these ones back, and you're not getting any more money. And North Korea said, well, you broke the deal, you've got to give us back our abductees. And they never followed up on investigating. They never gave back the abductees. Japan never released the sanctions, and they just made them worse and worse because they pretty much got confirmation from North Korea. It was like an urban myth. These were like missing people, random missing people that there had been rumors had been used for being spies, but basically leftists in Japan, many pro-North Korean leftists in Japan, including the main opposition party of the government, did not believe any of this. They thought they were racist conspiracy theories. It turned out to be true. In this particular unfortunate case. And Japan has held the line that it wants all the abductees out, and objectively it's not unreasonable to say a country that's holding 100 of your citizens hostage should not get off sanctions without resolving this issue. A lot of people are assuming that they must all be dead by now. I mean, up to 40 years ago in some cases, but some of these people were abducted at like 20 years old, 10 years old. One girl was like 8 years old when she was abducted. And with eyewitness accounts and everything, all the way up to her being like 40 years old and having a kid. So it's a tricky thing for Japan, and I know it puts Japan out of sync with America, and South Korea wanting to kiss and make up, and South Korea has more abductees, but they kind of look past it because they're right beside there. But Japan's kind of held out on this, and once again North Korea's like, Japan, you're being a dick, get into line and give us money like everybody else is getting prepared to. And I think Japan has been correct to stay tough on North Korea. And the idea that, well, this is between America and South Korea and North Korea and Japan's got nothing to do with it, well, not really. North Korea, remember, has a population of something like 300,000 North Korean citizens, as well as probably another 300,000 naturalized Japanese who have North Korean ancestry who work in businesses, all of which used to pay money to North Korea. I mean, Japan was North Korea's main source of income outside of Japan, not only from remittances from North Koreans working in Japan, but also from the fact that North Korea would export, if you had miso soup with like those little shells in them and stuff like that, well, until 2002, nearly all of those shells, as well as all of the many of the mushrooms, all sorts of stuff, that all came from North Korea. That was all actually, Japan was North Korea's main export market and its main source of hard currency from North Korean citizens working abroad. And the reason that you have all of these slave laborers, or one of the reasons that you have all these slave laborers now in the Middle East, in Russia and so on, all these North Koreans being sent abroad to earn money for the government is because the North Koreans who live in Japan aren't allowed to wire money back over anymore. The other thing that happened after 2002 was when North Korea came clean on having actually abducted Japanese people, like in a Truman Show type exercise to train their spies. It was so shocking, and many North Koreans in Japan felt so betrayed that there was actually a huge movement where people stopped paying remittances to the North Korean government, and many took up Japanese citizenship because they were already like fourth or fifth generation at this point. And to be let down in that way, to feel like they had been lied to and betrayed and used as they had, it actually caused people. It had a big impact on North Korea. So. Japan is playing tough, and Japan actually does have leverage over North Korea that in many ways not even South Korea has, because Japan has a large North Korean community that South Korea and America don't have, and that's why they want this fixed, partly for North Korea's own benefit, and partly honestly for the benefit of the North Korean citizens in Japan, of which there are a lot. They don't have an embassy, they don't have anyone to look after them. They had a de facto embassy, but again that got shut down after the abductee thing came out in the open. It's a complicated issue. North Korea is saying, hey, Japan, stop being dicks and stop, saying that, stop having a tough line on us. But Japan is just asking for them to release its abducted citizens that are abducted by the government and still being held there by all accounts today, or to provide credible accounts of if they're dead, how they're dead, which they didn't produce last time. They produced a whole bunch of, death certificates that all appeared to be made on the same day on the same typewriter. It was just stupid stuff. From my perspective as well, I think I don't understand the benefit for North Korea of holding out on this. They've already admitted to it. They've already kind of humiliated themselves over it. Resolving it, there's so much payoff. They can control information within North Korea. I don't know why they don't just resolve it, but we'll see. They'll hold on that anyway. Interesting one down the bottom here. So apparently, there we go, Kang. In Poland we have heaps of North Korean working on the docks, but it's hidden really well. Well, there you go. I've heard about this actually, that they do this. They send exactly for that sort of work, construction. They're basically slave laborers. It's not very good. The pachinko money goes over to North Korea. So the J-Vlog, that's the old thing. That used to be the old currency, and that's been largely shut down. So the whole thing about the pachinko economy collapsing, but this was what everyone knew if you were playing pachinko. Not the case now. All of those companies, Maruhan, that was originally a North Korean company, of course, the biggest pachinko chain. It's now Japanese and Japanese owned, but I think probably if you dig not too deep, you'll find they're all naturalized North Koreans, which is to say they're Japanese now. All of those businesses in particular stopped remitting money. So, yeah, it used to be kind of the joke that Japanese pachinko addicts were funding the missiles that were getting shot over Japan. On top of that, to find out that they were also funding the abduction program of Japanese citizens proved to be a little bit too much, and even the pachinko pulled out of supporting them. But of course, yes, that's an industry very much dominated traditionally by ethnic Koreans since the end of the war. And yes, and I don't really get that, but here's 4 fingers. 3 fingers? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5 fingers there. I don't know how you see 3 fingers there. Yes. Ramen, good to see you, by the way. Good to have you in there. Please don't be disturbed at the fingers. How does that work? Once they leave to work abroad, why would they go back? Because they're basically controlled. They have minders. They basically have like the North Korean version of KGB that go around and collect these people, and they collect all their pay. They control their they manage the accommodation, and they basically police these people. A bit like the old Soviet, overseas tours. They'd be policed or whatever. It's horrible that it exists in this day and age, but these are basically like it still is a Stalinist country. So there you go. This is kind of cool. Record number of Japanese employees working on the side. A lot of companies have stopped their bans on side jobs, and a lot of Japanese, particularly young Japanese, have gone and started internet businesses and side hobbies, which is actually, I think, really, really positive for the Japanese economy and just for creativity and for the country in general. So apparently, there we go. The 7.4 million people have side jobs in addition to their day job. A climb of 2.1 million compared to just 3 years ago. So people are now, crowdsourcing, freelancers, all this sort of thing. Now much dramatically increasing. Again, Nippon.com, run by Peter Durfee, awesome site. You should really follow this. You get fantastic information on Japan. But yeah, some people, they're still talking about North Korea. The thumb is not a finger. Well, a thumb is a type of finger, I would say. You always say you got 5 fingers or 10 fingers, right? You include the thumbs. You don't say 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. Well, you could say that, but most people say 10 fingers, so I disagree with that. But that's okay. The Mr. Cordyceps, there's a lot of these things in there. It's unclear how true they are, or how much they're just sort of myths that everyone believes about 3 generations, like for political prisoners or whatever, that they punish all 3 they imprison 3 generations of families. But certainly, it seems pretty crappy. The human rights of the situation there is unforgivable. And this is the thing as well, no matter how much they're playing nice and Kim can hold hands and go over and sit on a bench and talk about how we really want world peace, he's still doing this shit. North Korea's got a lot to do. 10 digits. Sorry to trigger you, Remy. 10 digits. Well, there we go. I think you're absolutely being more technically correct, but I think a lot of people say it as 10 fingers, although yes, I accept that. Anyway, cool to see Japanese people doing jobs on the side. Fatburger, I've never heard of Fatburger before, but I do quite like the photos here. Fatburger has apparently come to Japan. They're setting up in Shibuya. I must admit, I'm morbidly curious to try one of these. Does anyone know this? Are they any good? I actually also didn't realize that. I knew that Shake Shack was here. I did not know that Umami Burger was here. Carl's Jr. I've only tried in China, not in Japan. I don't feel like going out of my way to try Carl's Burger again. Carl's Jr. I'm kind of interested in Umami Burger, and I must admit, I look at this and I want to check out Fatburger. It is good that there are these gourmet hamburger chains coming to Japan. Does anyone know about this? Is it good? Should I go there? It does look pretty decent to me. Catwell, stop it. I'm sorry. Team 10 figures. Oh dear. The Sasebo burger. I quite like the Sasebo burger. I mean, to me that's like an old-fashioned fish and chip shop hamburger like we get in New Zealand. Catwell, thank you again. I don't know, the people in this fat burger, another thing I'll never even consider trying. How can you not even consider it? I mean, I would consider it. I mean, look at it, it's greasy, it's got lots of meat. I mean, I'm sure you'd. I'm going to regret it within 30 seconds of eating it, but I would try it. So I don't know. Okay, Asagi's Life. I should check out Asagi's Life channel. She is awesome. Go follow her, subscribe to her. She was at the Hanami, by the way. She liked it, so that's good enough for me. I'm gonna go check that out. I like a good burger, even if it's terrible for me. Maybe after I've done some exercise one day, I might go over there. I haven't seen this yet. I've been meaning to get to this, but apparently Agretsuko is like an anime. I don't think it's even really Japanese, but apparently it's about a Japanese animated working. Was she like a wolf or a fox or something? And she likes to vent stress by singing death metal at karaoke. Apparently everybody, I found this, I thought it was interesting. I tweeted it because partly as a bookmark for myself to go back and check this. I've downloaded all the episodes onto my Kindle Fire to go and watch. I haven't got around to watching it yet, but a bunch of people messaged me back and said, oh my god, that's awesome. So apparently it's really, really good. It's on Netflix. And I'm looking forward to watching this, and we'll see. Again, if anyone's seen this and can tell me, but my favorite character, I resemble it. Through the paper bag, Mr. Cordyceps, you're an animal. Although I must admit, with English hamburgers, it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes where the paper stops and the food ends. And sometimes, honestly, the food is a disappointing part, if I remember fish and chips as a kid. But yes, what else we got here? This is a really, really cool, this data freak, basically Japanese person on their blog, wanted to figure out the most remote location in Japan from a McDonald's. So if you don't like McDonald's, so for the Sergeant Bilkos of this world who want to be in Japan, and they don't want to be around hamburgers, and particularly they don't want to be around the Golden Arches, they don't want to be around the McDonald's chain. This person did a survey of how to find the place that you need to be in Japan, and it's really, really, really cool. Let me see if I can get the link out of this. Kita. So we got McDonald's. So basically, apparently got the database on a JSON basically with all of the data on where every restaurant location is. There's a spread map there of where every McDonald's restaurant is in Japan. There's a heat map showing where the highest concentrations are. Big concentration there, as you can see, around Kanto, around Tokyo, and going north from Tokyo as well. Actually pretty popular. Tokyo, you are gonna, it sounds like you're gonna trip over and fall into a McDonald's pretty much anywhere in Tokyo. So definitely what you're looking for there. Figured out an API for running an application to do a Google Maps survey to try to do these heat waves. Showed the coding that he used for a local application where they could run and process through Google Maps. Plot mapped. You can see the crazy concentrations there. Osaka, Nagoya, Tokyo. Taking a 20-kilometer radius around every and a 50-kilometer radius around every branch, just again try to figure out which parts of Japan are there that are more than a 50-kilometer radius away. So any place here that is not red is in the running for being the furthest from a McDonald's. You've got some islands there between Okinawa and Kyushu. You've got the Amami Oshima Island, or they're part of Kagoshima Prefecture. They're pretty remote, but those islands themselves, and they've noticed that the south west islands, they don't have McDonald's, but they're small islands. So the argument is they don't count. They're looking for places on the main islands. Hokkaido comes out the most interesting. You can see that there's a few places there that have a pretty remote access to McDonald's. Clearly they're not claiming the occupied territories of the occupied islands that Russia has. So if they expanded to a 90-kilometer radius around each McDonald's, and you look once again, everywhere in Japan is covered, pretty much, at least on the generally recognized territory. This person's done a lot of research at this point and is talking about how humanity's on the brink of coming to an end. So there's a point there that there's the Wakanai Peninsula up there, and indeed they mentioned the occupied Russian islands there as being one good candidate. But they also noticed that there's a small town called Setanamachi, which is on the southeast corner of Hokkaido, that also is quite remote. And in fact, around here they find this little town there that's actually beyond 93 kilometers. It's located right there. It's pretty close to Naiba. There are apparently quite close to where the Australian colony in Japan is, up there where people go snowboarding, is the most remote location. It's called Setana Town. I should actually read this. Ohana, I can't read the final kanji there. It's an obscure one, but apparently the town is called Setana, and it is the most remote place in Japan from a McDonald's. So there you go. If you ever want to come to Japan and be as far as possible from a McDonald's, boom, that is your solution right there. That place. I don't know what you can zoom in. Yeah, it's just a graphic rather than an actual Google map. So there you go. It's near Niseko. That's right, Daiba Honda. So very close to Niseko up there. So apparently it's surprising, actually, if you think that Niseko is there, you think that there would be more McDonald's around there, but I guess there are not. And probably people who read this blog, and the person who wrote this blog would probably not want you to go and put a McDonald's there, so it would ruin his whole blog idea. Yes, that's right. Tokyo Drew, good to see you. Tokyo Drew, good to have you along. And yes, indeed. I mean, he's gone to a lot of trouble there. I do appreciate the effort. I mean, it's an epic blog just to go through the logic that he put together to see that. Something there about octopuses I'm not going to dig into. Finding a place without a Saizeriya, that is indeed a challenge. I tell you, Saizeriya saved my life when I lived in Noda. That was like the only thing in Umesato to eat other than the factory food where I was working. That was horrible. Another random blog talking about Premium Fridays. We just had a Premium Friday this Friday, the first Friday of every month. There's a Premium Friday where everyone is supposed to go home at 3 o'clock. The title of this blog is Premium Friday wa Jitsuzai Shinai. Premium Friday doesn't actually exist. And I think they're correct at this point. People don't even really... It's a bit like warm biz in winter where people promise that they're going to turn down the heaters and have cold offices and wear extra clothes. Nowhere really follows it anymore. Cool biz took off, where they keep the coolers on low, so basically the offices are overheated in summertime. They love that, so everyone's sweating and stinking all the time in summer. Warm biz never took off, and certainly Premium Fridays have not succeeded. And so what can we do? Yeah, there's some funny things there in the comment I'm just going to leave. Golden Week is this week. Sergeant Booker, Monday, tomorrow is a public holiday, as well as Thursday and Friday. Yeah, people who take Tuesday and Wednesday off this week, they get basically a whole week off, and that's what a lot of Japanese people are doing. So yes, I should have called this the Golden Week special. Yeah, there was a thing I did notice. I was a little bit cynical when I heard the announcement that North Korea and South Korea would work towards the objective of making the Korean Peninsula nuclear free. And I came up with the line that Shinzo heard this and became immediately jealous and said that Japan would work to rid Japan of fax machines within the next 20 years. A joke, of course. Of course, it's never going to happen. There are going to be fax machines. I mean, if you have a kid that goes to a school, it's actually a requirement that you have a fax machine for the school to send you notices. We actually had to go and set up a post office savings account because they only accept payments for like school trips through Post Office Bank, and they only issue notices. They won't send you an email. They won't send you. They won't robocall you or send you a phone. They will actually require you to purchase a fax machine. And so if you have a kid in Japan, which, let's face it, that is a declining number, so perhaps 20 years they will run out of kids being born, but so long as there are kids being born, schools in Japan still require parents to go and buy fax machines. And it sucks. We've got it sitting there, and I don't think it's ever been used. It never works. But it's okay. I mean, the fax machines are cool. This is obviously subjective, but the Gaijin Pot here has gone through what they consider to be the top 3 regional ramen. A lot of people might get upset seeing Tokyo on that list. Some people say Tokyo is not really a region. Screw you, Tokyo is awesome, and Tokyo actually has a lot of really artisan ramen. And if you look at any list of the best ramen restaurants in Japan, even for Kyushu ramen or Sapporo ramen, you'll find sometimes some of the best restaurants of those ramen restaurants here in Tokyo. So yes, you've got basically for the styles, typically Tokyo is shoyu ramen, Sapporo is miso ramen, and Fukuoka, Kyushu is tonkotsu ramen, which is pork broth. They are all delicious. I actually big fan. When I came to Japan, I was a big fan of miso ramen, although I must admit now I go more towards, actually I really like TIME PM, which is chicken broth, and it's from Kyoto, but I generally go in the tonkotsu direction. There is a chain that I really like in Tokyo called Mensho. They're a little bit more expensive, but they've got like all vegetable broth, or one that I really like that's all lamb broth. Seriously awesome. It's like the only lamb broth ramen restaurant in Japan, and it's awesome. So yes, ramen is awesome, but they go through and they do declare that here we go, shoyu from Tokyo, miso from Sapporo, and tonkotsu from Fukuoka are the champions. And that's all that you need to know, and you should try all of them and compare them. And even if you get them, and if you get them in packs, like if you get the ramen packs, here's the other thing, even these are kind of an art form in Japan. Don't get the dried noodles, don't get the cup noodles and stuff like that. That's crap. It's like 100 yen, you boil water, it tastes like cardboard. Don't do it. Get the raw noodles, so they're refrigerated, the packs, they're soft. You can actually get, if you spend a little bit of extra, and you get some of the really good quality soft packs, the fresh packs, where the noodles are actually still kind of soft. You can actually get really, really good ones, and you should try all of these. And miso is vegetarian friendly. Although you never know in Japan how vegetarian friendly things are, but it's miso based, right? So shoyu, I guess, is the same actually. Tonkotsu, remember, it's pork, but it still is delicious. I have vegetarian friends who are vegetarians, but they still eat tonkotsu ramen because they liked it so much. And I chose not to get into the debate with them because I like them too. So anyway, those are the very good ramen that you should be having. That is about Fat Burger, so I will change that. I think this is cool. So this is, again, I mean, when you see this working, I think this is based on the same as when you have a touch screen. There are different ways you can have touch screens, and you can actually have a camera that sees where the movement is against a wall or whatever, or put sensors on the wall that can detect and triangulate the location of stuff. But certainly, I as we've described before, whether it be through AR or through other interfaces, I'm very, very much looking forward to a future where you can use a whole wall as an interactive interface. The idea that you could do make music using an entire wall as like a canvas for for painting, for music making, for computing, for story writing, for having like one of those crime scene investigation sort of mind maps or whatever. I mean, whatever you want to do it for, I think this is awesome. But yeah, why not just flip the switch? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but 3D fax machines. 3D fax machines would be kind of interesting, I must admit. 3D, what happened to 3D printers? I mean, I must admit, I've been a little bit disappointed. Charlie Brownson, good to have you here. The potential is still just as awesome now as it always was, but I don't know why 3D printers didn't take off. I hope that those continue to take off, but I thought this was kind of cool, and I do like the idea of having a whole wall that I can like control, use as a big control panel. Fortnite, I posted this not because of Fortnite, so I read about this. I quite like playing first-person shooters, so and I'm stuck on a mobile phone. So when I heard that there's a very popular shooter, and a big multiplayer game, was coming onto iOS, I'm like, yeah, I want that. So I installed it, I played it a couple of times. What I find when I play Fortnite on my iOS is I have an iPhone 7. My phone gets very hot, it starts to overheat, the frame rates start to drop, and the game starts to crash. If I play like 2 or 3 games, it doesn't stay stable, and so it's kind of fun, but it's like basically like it just runs too hot on my iPhone 7. So I can really play it well enough to really get into it. However, I saw a ranking of the most popular mobile games in Japan. I think I might have showed it on here last week. And the number 1 game there was called Knives Out. And Knives Out is another basically clone of Fortnite, or what's the other one? Unknown Battlegrounds or whatever, but PUBG or whatever. It's a Chinese clone of these games, but it runs really, really, really well on iOS. Plus they have servers in Japan. So the game is like super smooth. I mean, it's terrible. It does run the battery down. So you can only play like for about 30, 40, 50 minutes before you need to plug in while you play, and play with the plug on the phone, which is a little bit awkward. But basically it's all Japanese people playing. You can audio chat while you play, and it's awesome, and it's basically Fortnite. So the reason I'm showing this is not to promote Fortnite. I'm just promoting this to say, play a rip-off game of Fortnite called Knives Out, which is stable. It works great on my iPhone 7. I only play with Japanese people there, but if you guys, anybody out there who's interested, who's into mobile first-person shooters, and I think most of you aren't. Most of you have proper consoles, and I respect that, but I'm just not in a situation that I can do that. I've been having a lot of fun. I must admit I'm kind of hooked lately. So if there's anyone else out there who plays Knives Out or installs it and likes it, let me know. It'd be kind of fun to maybe hook up and play like a squad or something together. I'm having a lot of fun actually with it. Too much so, but yes, so that's kind of cool. I think I mentioned this last week. No, maybe I didn't. That guy, he's a member of the idol pop group Tokyo. Apparently was having a home party. Apparently, well, there's a question now whether there were 2 men and 2 women, or 1 guy and 2 women, but apparently one of the drunk women he decided to forcefully kiss. She filed a complaint, which is being treated as a police investigation now as indecent assault. The news media, they didn't know. Normally they would say suspect, they would say Yamaguchi suspect, or someone who's suspected of a crime. But they didn't know quite what to do with this very famous member of the pop group Tokyo, Johnny's group, same as SMAP. So they call him now Yamaguchi member of Tokyo, which is a little bit, again, it's like they don't want to call him on TV a suspected criminal, because again they don't want to be cut off by Johnny's. But it's a very awkward situation, and it's kind of funny. While the whole North Korean summit was going on, if you're watching the news in Japan, this was all that you were seeing this week, was basically this person indecently assaulted a young woman, which is unfortunate, but yeah, it's good to see that at least this sort of thing is becoming it's becoming easier for people to make complaints, where it's appropriate and so on, where it's always been a culture where it's been very hard to do, and people could probably get away with these things more. All the ads on YT are for Knives Out. Well, so yeah, it works. I tell you, I mean, I'm not being I wish I was getting pay me $1 Knives Out, because I'm promoting you. It works heaps better than Fortnite. I tried Fortnite. I love the concept of it, but it just didn't work very well for me. Knives Out works really, really well for me, even though it looks like it's clearly a copy of the other game. So there we go. Canon is shuttering its camera business, apart from the fact that they had the first ever digital cameras that had an LCD screen on the back, and there's a fantastic episode of Project X, the NHK series on engineers who do these really cool inventions that become like the Walkman, And the digital camera is one of these. The division inside Casio that had the first ever working digital camera with a screen on the back of it, they had to fight internally for 3 years to be allowed to turn it into a product. Like, nobody believed in one of them. It's a fantastic story of just the perseverance that was required by these engineers, where Casio developed this hit product in spite of all its sternest efforts to prevent itself from doing so. I was a really big fan of the Exilum camera. Again, this is before we had smartphones in the early 2000s. They released a credit card size phone, a camera, and it was like less than 10 millimeters thick. It was like 9.8 millimeters thick, and it was the size of a credit card, and it could shoot 2 megapixel photos and 480p video. And I took it to Fuji Rock. It was in my pocket the whole time. You could video, like, you should not do this, but of course some of my favorite acts there, I recorded on this thing. I took this thing surfing. I thought it was the most amazing thing. Always been a big fan of Casio. Love the watches, love the technology that they have. They still have a strong business in other areas, but the cameras are not doing it for them anymore. And I haven't really felt drawn to purchase an Exilum for a while, but I guess now that essentially mobile phones have taken the place of that compact camera. So it's a little bit sad. It's a little bit of a milestone. But Casio, I mean, they're a fantastic company, and I do appreciate that they've had that out there. One of my tracks, which I made the other week, Hapami, made it onto a global ranking of Creative Commons music. I'm kind of happy about that. It's like 111. It's nothing too flash, but it's quite a good track. It inspires me to actually want to make another track tonight, and it looks like we might get enough time. We'll see if I finish in a minute or so, and I can do that. But that was kind of nice. You can always go check out all of my music, and all of my music is available for downloading and reuse. Put it on your videos, remix it, use it, do whatever you like. That's what it's there for. Kind of interesting one up here. So Trump, all this time, with all this stuff going on, hasn't had an ambassador for South Korea. China's been putting lots of pressure on America to get rid of the regional commander for U.S. forces in the Pacific, Admiral Harris, who is an American who has a Japanese mother. He's a half, basically by Japanese standards, and he's a stridently he's a hawk on the need to stand up to China, and specifically to run freedom of navigation operations, where China's building artificial islands and claiming that they're real islands that you're not allowed to go within 12 miles of. America is very aggressively pushing that no, these are fake islands, and you don't get a 12-mile sea around them. And just to prove it, we're going to run warships through them. Through those 12-mile seas, just to demonstrate our position that we don't accept your assertion that these are islands. And Admiral Harris has been one of the main advocates of that very aggressive strategy, and China's been basically completely lost its shit with him constantly. They've been lobbying in the US to get him fired. And it's interesting, I don't know, is this a capitulation by Trump that they're taking him out of his military role, but they're going to put him as South Korean ambassador, where he's a real anti-China hawk. And in South Korea as well, again, he's kind of known for his very, very hawkish pro-US militaristic views. Obviously, he's military himself, but also the fact he's Japanese. So kind of interesting there. Interesting bit of news here. The Japanese government is going to make it easier for students who are in Japan on student visas to stay in Japan and to start businesses or to start working in Japan. There's a problem that once your courses finish in Japan, you have to leave, and so you lose the benefit of having had these people attend university in Japan. So they're basically going to set up new visa schemes where they're going to be allowed to stay and work in Japan, and they're going to have permission where they can stay without a visa sponsor to be able to start businesses in Japan after they finish studying here. So if you're thinking about studying in Japan at a Japanese university, the options that you're going to have after studying for staying in Japan and starting your own business and not needing a sponsor are going to improve. And Nissan R33 Zechun, AU Navy versus China Navy a few days ago. Media went crazy. Yeah. Australia got in the fuss as well. Well, again, China, they're not playing around with the Navy stuff, and the fact that they're reacting so strongly kind of proves that, to me, that they're doing the right thing. That they this is not a small deal. What's going on? So yeah, interesting to see. But this is good news as well. If you are planning to come to Japan, your options to stay here and to contribute to the economy are improving. BBC is making available 16,000 sound effects from its archive. That'll be awesome to play around with. YouTube is working harder on being quicker processing takedown requests and monetization requests. which is good to see. Apparently someone from the here we go, from the road ministry of land, infrastructure and transport ministry. They still haven't made regulations yet to regulate using these carts on public roads. And in the absence of regulations, there are people who are allowed to drive there with regular international licenses, and of course this has been very popular to don these Super Mario costumes and drive around. Something I'd quite like to do myself actually, but there have been a number of accidents, and apparently this was on Nichan, that a bureaucrat from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport flipped out and got super angry at the operators of this, saying, are you taking the piss, shouting at them. But everyone pointing out, well, it's not their fault. You guys have sat on your asses and not made regulations. You're upset, but you're the ones who allow it, which is a good point. And the final one, Osaka apparently has been putting rainbow marks on toilets to indicate that they are disabled friendly. But apparently this has upset LGBT communities, because the rainbow flag is understood globally as a LGBT symbol rather than a disabled friendly symbol. So I think, do they show it here? Well, that's one way. There's way too many signs on that actually, now that I look at that. That is a little bit strange. That's Shinagawa. There was a picture on here anyway. Here we go. So this is a symbol for a disabled friendly toilet, but LGBT groups are saying it's confusing, and I kind of get it, although again, don't really see a big deal. That's it. I've been racing because I thought I could make some music, but we're like 2 minutes to the end of the show. What do you think? Should I do a track? I haven't done a track for a while. What do you reckon? Cool, Hoshino, good to see you. How do you say, I just said it myself, how do you say, namete no ka desu? Are you taking the piss? That's the English way of saying it. I guess the Americans would say, without saying the F word, they'd say, are you screwing around with me? There's probably some movie line like the equivalent, like, are you baiting me with this? Speed punk. I can't really do speed punk on Chaos Oscillator. I could try it, but it wouldn't sound very good. Okay, let's do it. Let's do some speed punk. See how this connects? They own rainbows, yes. Well, maybe they do, geez, let me get this all hooked up. Later. Okay. Also, let me get the sound set up. Well, let's do it. Let's play a track. 600 BPM. $1 for dancing. That sounds like a different type of show that you're anticipating there. Let me plug in the headphones. Let's do. Okay, Lysander, have a good sleep. Have a good night. Okay, let's put this into iPad mode and try to figure out how I can rotate this around. Boom. Gonna rotate the disc a bit. Okay, I can do this. Let's make a new track. Okay, let's do an outro. Happy Hardcore. Daft Punk. Let's go for Daft Punk. I like the funk, the one with the dog. You know that track? That's like one of my favorite tracks ever. I don't know if I could do a track like that, but I'm aiming for something like that. That's a nice one. So that means you've got to do a BPM. Can you hear me? Oh, let me just check as well. I'm going to turn on the sound input, audio input capture. Let's check that this works. I can't tell if that's detecting that or not. That's working. Okay. Oh, actually that's pretty good as well. pretty good. Let's make that 162. Let's do electric cars. Okay. I don't know how we get that sound. Bass. Okay, let's reset this. Okay. Nice. Oh. Camera's off balance. Hey. Oh, nice. videos out, but the track's kind of cool. Let's just save this. Just look up Hiko Simon on SoundCloud, you can find it. Oh, there's heaps of it. That's the show. End of the show. Hope you liked it. That was fun. Actually, I quite liked that track. That came out pretty well. Oh, back over here now. Camera's pointing in a different place. That was a good track. I'm going to play around with that. I don't know what I'm going to call it. Hey, what's a good title for that track? You guys should tell me that, and I'm going to say good night. Hope you all have a good one. Have a good week. What is that? My chant in the background? I've got no idea, Sergeant Booker. Maybe you can help me think of that. So in case you couldn't hear me before, Nissan 33 Z tune. Look up Hiko Simon on SoundCloud. It's all there. Lots of stuff. And let me know. You can always use this stuff anytime. I'll make that into a track. That's a good track, actually. That just popped out quite well. I was just playing around and it just came out with some really good melody. So that is sweet. Steve from Berkeley. Good to have all you guys here this week. See you again the same time next week. Have a good week, everybody. Have a good golden week if you're in Japan. Have a good golden week if you're not in Japan. Stay cool till after school. See you later. Boom. Peace. Thank you for the dollars, Cat. Wow. Wasn't necessary, but very much appreciated. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.